Hey guys, on this episode we're gonna jump back into the 70s and check out some purple velour looking seats. As you can tell, somebody likes purple. But today we got a customer car in here, and overall it doesn't need much, but there's an interesting problem we have to deal with, and you might run into this. So I figured I would take you guys along for the ride. And besides, I wouldn't want you to miss out on an opportunity to see this interior. So let's check it out. So as you can tell, they got a set of nice aftermarket wheels on here. The problem is, if you take a quick look in here, I can stick most of the tip of my finger in there. So that's obviously not ideal. It's got maybe one or two threads of stud engagement. So while technically it is holding it on there, it's obviously not very secure, and could present a problem, and the owner's worried about it. So what we're gonna do is take these wheels off. I bought a longer set of studs. We're gonna take the rear end apart and we're gonna swap these out, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and take these wheels off, and then we'll get the fluid out of the differential and slide these axle shafts out so we can fix it. Okay, so there's a couple younger guys watching the channel that ask questions on how to do stuff all the time, which is good, because that's sort of the whole point, right? Is to show people how to do this stuff. It's not as hard as you think it is, right? You save some money or get an old car running again. But so let's say you haven't ever messed with a rear differential before, okay? So what I've done is I've taken off most of the bolts. I've loosened the ones at the top, and I got one loose here, right? You see how it's starting to drip into my pan? Well, if I just take the cover off, the fluid's going to go all over the place, right? So we want to drain it first. So with these loose bolts in here, we can pry up on this cover and drain all this without making as big a mess as we might otherwise. Find gear oil. Messing around with these older cars is one of those things that doesn't get changed like it should. I've opened these things up before and like mud came out. It's just been sitting in there the whole time. So all in all, this one's not too bad. It's a little runnier than it should be. I don't know what weight was in here. I know what weight's going back in, but should have brought a rag. I never bring a rag. And then before we put all this back together, we will clean up all the, see, it's got RTV or whatever on all the bolt heads. So we'll clean all that up before we put this back in. And at least they've got the ever important chrome diff cover. So if you've never messed with a differential before, you might be asking yourself why we would do this, right? So with these GM 10 bolts and 12 bolts, inside the differential here, inside the ring gears and the planetary gears, you have these locking C-clips. And what that means is there's a pin right here, this pin, and that's a locking pin, right? The two of the planetary gears rotate about that pin, right? You can see them up here. They're the spider gears, excuse me, not planetary gears. We're going to take that pin out, and that's going to allow us to push these axles in, and we'll be able to remove the C-clip. And then we can slide the axle shafts out. We're doing that so that we can remove those old studs and press in some new ones. So it sounds way more difficult than it really is. It's pretty simple and straightforward. They use RTV and a gasket. That's odd. Makes me wonder if that cover's bent. Okay, so to get this pin out, what we're going to do is remove this bolt. and then we'll be able to slide. So it's a 5/16 bolt. Should always wear gloves when you're messing with somebody's rear end. Whatever gloves it is. Okay. Slides out. See, that pin slides real fast, so make sure you're ready to grab it. Okay, now we can push this axle in. You hear that clink? That's the C-clip, and we'll reach in there and grab it and show you guys. See, that's it. That's all we're trying to do is get the C-clips out. Do both of our C-clips. Scrape some of this sludge here. Oh, yuck. Delicious. If there's any shavings, they'll be down here, so we just want to try to scrape all that out so that's actually clean in here. Clean-ish. Okay. Okay, just like you'd imagine, what we do is we just slide this out, and I like to take a rag and grab it because it's going to have grease on the end of it. Just sort of slide it out. Careful not to drag it on the bearings and everything in there too much. And that's the provision that C-clip's fits over inside the differential. So we'll take it over the bench and I'll show you a couple ways on how to remove these. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to remove these. They're pressed in normally, and I have a press, but you might not have a press at home, so I thought I would show you a different way of doing it. So obviously I have it in the vise here. I'm not trying to pinch it down in the vise. I'm just using the vise as something rigid. And what we're going to do is tap these on the head with a hammer and tap them out basically. See, and as you can see, it just sort of falls right out. It doesn't matter where it went. And we'll rotate it, and you want to make sure you're not damaging anything. Obviously, you want to take care of this. Is that loud? Is it as loud as it seems? The ringing in the ears would suggest it's loud. Okay, and that's all of them removed. And now we're going to take a wire brush and clean all these up. Clean up the surface and the holes anyway. Okay, now, when it comes to putting them back in, they're obviously pressed in, right? That's why this knurled edge is here to reach in and grab that mating surface, make sure it doesn't rotate, and to keep it from coming out. So the question then becomes, how do we do that, right? So the easiest way to do it is with a press. You rotate this upside down. you stick it in the press and you push this in until it's flush, right? Another way to do this is you can bring it through here like this, get a bunch of washers, stack them up, and slowly tighten the lug nut until you pull it in, sort of reverse press it that way. And I've seen guys flip it upside down and smack it with a hammer to press it in. You could do that, I suppose. The worry, I guess, for me would be that I would damage threads as I was doing that. So what I'm going to do is take this over and stick it in the press and put it in. But like I said, if you take this, if you don't have, you probably don't have a press at home, right? I get that. Take this, put it in here, stack up some washers, enough to where you still get some really good thread engagement, but you can pull the stud through without bottoming it out. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, so to put it back in, we're going to do the reverse, essentially, as you would imagine, right? So keep it in there as centered as you can. Try not to bounce off of too much stuff. And when you get about here is when you're going to hit the inside of the differential, and you want to sort of lift it up gently to center it into there. You're going to have to turn it back and forth a little bit because obviously it's got splines on it. And then you just want to fully seat it all the way in there. And that's done. Alright, now it's time to put those C-clips back in. So we want to, I put the dowel back in just so I could rotate it without the spider gears coming out. Alright, so now to get the C-clips installed, it's the reverse of what it was in the beginning, right? So you want to push this all the way in. Let me clean up this clip real quick. So we got that side pushed all the way in, and then we're just going to slide this C-clip back over the end of the axle until it's fully seated, and then we're going to slide it back over and you'll hear that click. And that's all there is to it. I'll do the same thing over here. Slide that one in. Oops. Okay, now that's seated. Oops. How many times can you say oops? I'll slide that back over. Now that's set. Now we just need to reinstall this pin. And I rotated that a little bit by accident, so okay. And then when you're looking at this pin, right, it goes in a specific way, right? See how it's got this hole? You want this hole to be lined up. There's no threads in here. The threads are in the other side. So you just want to slide this up in there so that that hole is located properly. Excuse me, the threads are actually over here, but you get what I mean. And that's it. Now we just got to clean this old gasket material off and then fill it with gear oil, and we're all set. You know what I should do is, I won't talk right now. And then you just want that snug. Doesn't, you know, don't feel like you gotta snap it off. And that's it. So we'll rotate everything, make sure we're still good. Yeah. Everything's good. So now we just gotta clean this old gasket material off, like I said, and fill it with fluid, and we'll be all set. So appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the box below, and we'll catch you next time. what I should do when I'm editing this is when I send this episode of Full Throttle, and show me dropping that clip 40 times. Okay.